Welcome to B Cube Sunday morning. It is a wonderful day. Uh, for the rest of the country, where I understood they had this season called winter, uh, we didn't uh, have much of a winter at all. And so now we're having spring, and I have this horrible fear it's going to be a hot, hot summer. So I'm making sure I'm getting all my planting done early. And it's just not, that's a lot of work because when between doing the planting and coming back in and working on editing our new book, An American Storm, it is fun. And I got to tell you, people, you're going to love this book. If you've ever wanted to see Trump's image tattooed on a horse's ass, um, you'll love it. Hey, so the horse didn't appreciate it, but the horses don't look in mirrors. Uh, it is a fun book with a lot of wonderful authors, and I'd wave the cover at you again, but I've done that so many times that I oh
Yeah, but the cover's really great, Bob. Wave it at people.
let's wave this cover.
Oh, and he's got it framed. Nice.
Oh, this is the one I bought from Radcon.
Yep, there we go.
He took it and displayed it at Radcon, and I said, "Oh hell, you know, uh, there's more than one way to pay an artist.
Mm-hmm.
Buy his prints, or her prints, because I tell you what, I bet you Giani, when she goes to a convention, likes to see people buy her prints. Well, maybe not. I don't know, but I'll tell you what, Tom, I'm going to defer to you now to introduce your guest and tell us what's going on while I go back into the nether regions of the web.
Bob, don't go too far into the nether regions, because I have to tell our audience, Giani is coming to us from the far reaches of Delaware, and her connection may drop, in which case she'll come back on, but Bob has to reinstate her to the conversation.
Yeah. But remember, if she goes off, the internet being poor out where she lived is Biden's fault. Okay.
I still say it's Obama's.
Fine.
I think it's Netanyahu's.
No, Netanyahu, there's so much evil in the world that they can lay that at his doorstep. Every dead baby in Gaza, every dead schoolgirl in Iran should have their pictures posted on Netanyahu's jail cell in a well-lit, never dark prison facility that is damp and dark, or damp and
unfortunately,
messy.
I think
Tell us how
ICE
you
has
really
a few
feel,
of
Bob.
those with room.
Yeah.
Do what?
ICE has a few of those ready.
Yes, God,
Yes.
I despise that man, and I despise the people who empower him and enable him. So anyway, now that I've got that off my chest,
The opinions of those stated on this broadcast are not those of everyone on this broadcast, but they can be close.
Wait a minute. Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
So we have today a friend of mine who I knew from her days in New York, who published a very interesting thing called the New York Tarot, which is photographic. And she said in the introduction to that she has written an entire book on who the people are and what's going on with it, and that she'd love to find a publisher who would want to do something with it. But today we're just going to do some of it by talking. And she's going to tell us stories about how this deck came to be, how it came to be published, and what is involved in publishing a tarot deck. So it's black and white. This is this is the box it originally came in. He says, trying to get the angle right. That's one
What
of the
is
cards.
the date? What is the year of publication?
1987. And it's a very interesting chronicle of a particular social group of the time, because all the photographs are of real people, many of whom I know. We'll ask the very deep question, why isn't John Singer in there?
He wasn't hanging around with us.
Well, see?
And so I wasn't part of that crowd, which Tom was, but I went and looked up some of the names in this deck from 1987. And some of these people have gone on to be big movers and shakers involved with all kinds of arts and social movements. So it'll be interesting to hear a little bit about how well Giani predicted that these people were going to have a big impact.
It wasn't so much that I predicted anybody would have a big impact. It's that I felt I was kind of being a movie director, and I was trying to capture stills from a movie. And these were the actors who could portray the characters that I had in mind.
And this is interesting, particularly in the context of New York, because Chester Anderson did the same kind of thing with his book Fox and Hare, which is a long novel about one particular day in Greenwich Village in the late 70s. How long did it take to do the deck, Giani?
It gestated for about 4 years, and then once I had its shape, which came to me in about 3 days, and that's a story I will tell, it took me 5 years to capture all these that I wrote down furiously after I had the inspiration to do it. So shall I tell the story of how it got started?
Yes.
Okay. I was part of a gang of people called Star Group 1, and we would meet regularly at a place called the Bells of Hell, which is a wonderful bar owned by Frank and Malachi McCourt, and hosted an Irish rock band called Turner and Kerwin of Wexford. And it also hosted, it also hosted a lot of, let's see, what's a nice way of putting this without outing anybody? Can put it that way. And there were regular rituals, and it was a very, very people who would show the and as I was hanging out there, one involved the Queen and me to Tara and as I looked around at this gang of people that assembled for these concerts, yep, that's her. As I looked at these folks, I thought, well, we've got a fool. We definitely have a Queen of Cups in the form of Amy. We have all these characters who could be characters in a tarot deck. And I thought, well, I could do the Star Group 1 tarot deck. And then what happened was Con Ed had failed to bill the Bells of Hell for like 3 years. They had failed to bill the electric bill correctly. And Frank and Malachi got slammed with just like something like a $14,000 electric bill. And they had to close the bar. And as often back then, you lose your, and so it was there. And I wound up working for lots of different arts organizations, and to support my arts habit, I was a bike messenger during the day, which like if you're in the arts in New York back then, you could be a waiter or you could be a bike messenger. they're both jobs where you can kind of put it down and take it up, make money. The longer you work, the harder you work, the more money you make. And so bike messengering supported my arts habit. And I ran a pickup box office for bands and dance groups and musical groups, so that my phone number would be the reservation number. And I had one of the first answering machines where I could remotely access my answering machine. Would be my home phone number. I would show up at the venue. I would call my phone number and get the reservations. This got me around to a lot of different art organizations, and I just kind of became known as this support person. And through a series of weird events, I wound up becoming a stagehand and an usher for the off Broadway production of Torch with that eventually became a Broadway hit and a movie. And it was a long show, and I would have to do the cleanup along with another stagehand named Billy Castleman, and we would have to. It was a 4-hour show. I would let people in; they would watch the show. I felt wonderful about working for that show because I really felt that it was in the early '80s. This was a cause for enlightenment, and so many things in that play have come to pass, like gay marriage, gay adoption, all in that play. And so I felt very good working for that play and supporting it. Anyway, I smoked a lot, and I smoked a lot, and I clean up. And one evening, I was sweeping, and I had this rather terrible image of the Ten of Wands being a gay person being set upon by men with baseball bats, which had happened multiple times in New York. And I was kind of horrified by this vision, but at the same time, it's like, wait a minute, what is this? This is not the Star Group 1 tarot. What is this? And in my pot-soaked, slightly hallucinating mind, I said, and for the day, it just again and again and again, the and at that point, I had been and I'd been studying the art history. So there used to be 2 classes of people who were tarot cards, who were interested in it from a divination point of view. And
yes, it's a different image.
Hand.
Yeah.
Yes, and in the process of spending 5 years pursuing the images that came to me, I decided to not stage that one. It's like things happen, synchronicities things, both positive and negative, happened. Not to
I can understand that.
so as for the artistry people, and the people to each other, and I had an arts education, and started looking at art history of tarot cards. And what I learned was the oldest extant deck, the Forza deck, set of cards we know the numbers, morale, and things connected with it. What my investigation, this is pre-internet, uncovered was no, it had the number of cards that are in there had little or nothing to do with numbers. It had to do with grids that printers would produce. What was an efficient grid? What was an efficient card to produce? And I also learned that the first cards were playing cards. They were not for divination. Divination didn't come until hundreds of years later. But the oldest decks were, as I said, the oldest extant deck that we have is the Visconti Sforza. And it was a wedding gift. And it was a display piece, like a solid gold Monopoly. It was meant for display. Extra cards. And I also discovered that there were other decks. It's called the Florentine deck. And as I said, the ones that have been preserved have multiple cards that no longer are there in tarot decks, like Hope and Charity. Those were cards that were in there. There were lots of things that sort of fell by the wayside over time. And as I went through New York and discovered various images and searched for these images, as a bike messenger, one of the places that I went had these marvelous elevator doors with these wonderful Art Deco zodiac signs. And I could put the zodiac signs in there, and with the zodiac in there, and the and adding the dame, the female knight, what I would wind up doing is I would get the number of cards in the deck numbered 0 to 93. And that's kind of a credit to the Crowley folks. It's like, see, there's 93. Yes, I was thinking of you. Anyway, so that's so as I said, I had 3 days where like this kind of download happened, and it wasn't anything I could ignore. If you've ever had inspiration, you don't turn your back on it. And I spent 5 years pursuing those images, and 125 people volunteered to pose for me, and basically all they got.
So one of the things I have an odd comment, which is that it is fascinating looking at the timing on this. You did this you published this in 87. In 84, I found the original manuscript of the Book of the Law and returned it to the OTO, which is another long story. So there's a synchronicity there happening in terms of all of this stuff.
Oh, yes. Synchronicity. Go ahead.
The Aleister Crowley deck dates back to World War II, 1944, when he developed it in with someone else. But yeah, the Aleister Crowley stuff.
A woman, yes. Frida Harris, right?
So yes. I'm curious to know what happens when you do divination with this deck.
Which brings me of why I did this deck. At the time, messengering, I was also like a volunteer roadie for that Irish rock band. And also I had a part-time job as a hotline counselor in a shelter for battered women, one of the earliest ones in New York, based on the Cheswick model. Anyway, so I would go to these strange bars where the band would deliver the equipment, and this was the late 70s, early 80s. They needed some babysit the equipment at these strange bars. We're all over New York. So I'm at some place where I don't know any, And what I learned was the fastest way to make friends and get free drinks was to pull out a tarot deck and do a reading for myself. And people would come over and go, "Do you read cards? Yes. Do you charge money? No. Could you read my cards?" And what I found, was I was answering a lot of the same questions that I was answering on the hotline. That this was a way for people to sort out their feelings about a crisis that they were going through. And while I believe in synchronicity and some of it is really, really weird, I do not claim what I do in tarot readings is I try and help the person who's come to me with questions, with they need. And I like people to understand things. And so when I set out to make this deck, I wanted to make a deck that was as visually transparent, non-occult, occult meaning hidden. I wanted it to be non-occult. I wanted it to be available in the same way that a good newspaper photograph is available. That people could comprehend the content immediately.
The photos that you took remind me almost of Ouija in that they're very stark,
Yes.
They're very gritty,
Yes.
they're
Yes.
clearly New York.
Yes.
So I was also living in New York in 1979, 1980, and that was possibly one of New York's grittiest eras. It was
Yes.
really it was a stark time and really wonderful for creative work.
Yes.
So I'm not as deeply versed in tarot as Tom is, as some of our audience probably is. I've only had one reading done, and the woman stood up in the middle of it, told me something, and walked off. She told me that I'm associated with death and that I'm the Hindu figure that dances next to the funeral pyre. And then she left. At any rate, yes, and it's true. I do have a relationship with death. But my curiosity, when you do a horoscope reading, you can have one done for yourself, or you can bring in other people's information. My sense is that for tarot, the person has to be present at the reading. They have an involvement with the cards. Is that true?
I feel that very, very strongly. And I have about how tarot readings work. You are familiar with flip books, the ancestor to film, yes? Okay. So movies used to be shot at 24 frames per second. We can consciously observe and recognize 6 frames, six of those frames, 6 of those 24 frames. That's how fast our brain can process it. They used to put people in machines where they could read their brain waves, and they learned that people were unconsciously seeing things of time. So when I give people cards, and I agree with you absolutely, you should be present with the other person. And that person should be able to handle the deck and shuffle the cards, because what I believe that they are doing is that they are unconsciously seeing the cards as they basically do a flip book, and that in some way they are stacked. And the synchronicity of cards speaking to tradition, stacking the deck for the information that they need for a decision that they have to make.
Interesting, because I generally feel that the semi-random nature of doing the shuffling and things like that, and the general applicability of the images work together to put things together in people's heads that they hadn't realized needed to be together.
Mm-hmm.
And that if I have a problem, it's because I'm not seeing the connections I need to see. So it's similar,
Yes.
but
And
not
that's what
identical to what you're saying.
Yeah, and that's what I think Tarot Reader does, is assists, and I believe in divination, or skilled use of divination. I don't necessarily believe
Mm-hmm.
so. Which and the question, which when they those when they read the tarot, things can help people.
Giani,
Mm-hmm.
how did people learn to read tarot? How did you learn to do this?
I started with a very, very user-friendly deck called, you see, the Robin Morgan deck, which is a
Mhm.
series of black and white line drawings. Tarot, like broken down into several eras. Had the Waite deck and the Crowley deck that were done in the earlier part of the 20th century. And then in the late 60s, early 70s, you had the hippies discovering these decks, and then some of them having the idea of making their own decks. And that was in the era of like the age of Aquarius and astrology kind of creeping into everything.
There were several
And
different Aquarian decks. Yeah.
yes, so so make decks, Morgan deck, and user friend that because people, it is most parents.
Mm-hmm.
And
Quinn Yarbrough used to use the Palladino deck to read at the Magic Cell,
and
which was one of the Aquarian decks.
Yeah, one of the things that I was aware of, because there was this kind of in 70s early people who were doing tarot, and I had one conversation with somebody about tarot cards and learning to read tarot cards, and what he told me was for one of his psychic readers, like in the Coney Island area, and he was very disturbed by their practices, because what it was basically keeping people enthralled, keeping people coming back,
Mm-hmm.
and keeping people hooked. And I didn't want that. It's like, I like people to reach their decisions and fix whatever they wanted to fix in their lives and move on. I'm not very interested in having people come back to me with the same problems that they had the week before. That does not, as a kind of counselor, that does not interest me. In fact, I find it depressing when people basically don't move on with what they need to move on with. Anyway,
so Giani,
I started to answer your question. I started collecting decks. I started reading, delving into the art history, and realizing that these images were not as untouchable as they appeared to be, as when in the magical movement that was going on in New York at that time. So that was how I learned to read. Is basically learning.
Mm-hmm.
So after you did the deck, did you ever do a reading for anyone who was actually had their picture in the deck?
Yes. And I can't remember. I did lots and lots and lots of readings. I haven't done them in a while, but I did many readings for many, many people.
Yeah. There was some discussion of punk rock over in the sideline, and I wanted to mention that Larry Kerwin of Turwin and Kerner of Wexford went on to found a well-known punkish Irish band called Black 47.
Yes.
Which made it actually quite big.
Yes. And you also,
Funky Kaylee.
Oh yeah, Funky Kaylee, Maria's Wedding. I love Maria's Wedding.
Oh yes,
yes. And also he's gone on to be a successful playwright
and novelist with Liverpool Fantasy.
Yes.
So, Tom, were there tarot readers at the Magic Cellar where you worked in San Francisco?
Yes, Quinn Yarbrough was there doing it. And she used, as I said, the David Palladino deck, and she kept it in a box that was a Russian black lacquer box with the Firebird, not Firebird, the Sleeping Mountain on the cover, which I'd given her from when I went to Russia in '68. So it's one of those totally weird sets of coincidences.
Interesting. I noticed that there is a punk rock tarot by Joe Infernari. I don't know who he is, but it's an elaborate one, and he has T-shirts for the various cards. I've been getting little pins of a cat tarot that shows cats as the various cards.
A woman named Karen Kuykendall did a tarot of the cat people.
Yeah, that was what was the fantasy deck?
The Bruce Pell's Fantasy Showcase Tarot deck.
Yes, you were talking about publication, and I can get into that if you like.
Yes, we're very interested in this show is very interested in how people bring their creative works to the public, how you actually get out there.
Yes. One of the things
Bruce
that
Pell's
happened,
got 80 artists or so to do.
Yeah.
Each do an individual card.
Yes, and that was also one of my inspirations.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that was published in 1980.
Yeah, one of the things that what Bruce Pell's told me that he warned me about U.S. Games. U.S. Games is used to be, I don't know if they still are, a huge publisher of tarot decks. And what Bruce Pell's told me was that who at that time came to him wanting to do a secondary publication of the fantasy deck. And the terms were dreadful. Basically, this guy was going to own all the art, was going to basically be able to walk away with everything. And what happened was he wound up contacting the fantasy deck. It was so crappy, the cat lady took it.
Okay.
That was, yeah, and I had the experience of wanting to do a secondary publication of the New York Tarot. And I wound up talking to him on the phone and working something out that seemed reasonable. And he said he would send me a contract. And when the contract came, nothing that we discussed was in it. And basically, I would have had to turn over all my originals to him, all of the, basically all of the copyright of the artwork would go to him. It's like, no. So there were very few options. And let me see if I can get the name of, there was another printing outfit, Morgan Press. There was the only other place that could print the cards at that time was Morgan Press in Dobbs Ferry, New York. And those are the people that I went to. And they they had a deck that was out there, and I explained, and they had all the equipment, cut all the costs. Was ultimately where I went. Now, I don't know if this is true right now under the regime and the current trade policies, but today, you can arrange to get things printed in other countries, and basically send them their art, send them the artwork, and then it comes back all printed and cut and collated.
Well, this is why Wizards of the Coast uses Carta Mundi in Belgium.
Yes.
There are a lot of places where these things can happen. But yeah, no, but Carta Mundi was around well before Wizards started using them in '93. So it's certainly possible that in the late '80s they were. How many copies did you print? Okay. I check them occasionally on eBay, and there's one up occasionally, and they generally are selling these days for around $100.
No, they're selling for around 300.
Okay.
I looked.
You can sell them to people for $65.
So there you go.
If you want to make more money on them, you can sell them on eBay. There are hungry customers.
Yes.
I had some very early on happen when eBay was a brand new thing, which was somebody ordered 2 or 3 decks. Let me see. Yeah, he ordered 3 decks from me. And this is before I had any kind of an internet connection. And I discovered that he was selling them for many hundreds of dollars on eBay. And I got angry, and I wound up venting to my brother. And he said, all the guy is guilty of is being a better business person than you are. And, I had to admit, my brother was absolutely right. This guy was a better business person than I am. And it's what I'm made of. I think of myself as a generous person. I have enough in my life. I don't need to make a lot of money for the deck. The deck got paid for. God bless it. My mom dug in her pocket and arranged, this something like the couple of $1,000s it cost to get them all printed. And I would prefer that these be available to people. Post back and would order a bunch more, and I said no. That I knew that was willing, and that didn't reflect me. And I had my first I will destroy you on the internet threat of my life from him.
Oh no.
Yes. This as I said, this is back when, even as a state employee, I did not have an internet connection. So there wasn't anything I could do about it. It just confirmed he was a brat. And so I never sold him anything ever again.
You would think that someone with an interest in the tarot would know better than to bring down that kind of karma on themselves, but apparently not.
No, I think this is somebody who, there are people like those Coney Island readers who see this as an income stream, not as anything where they have any kind of commitment to the people they're reading. It's about the income stream. And that's just not me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have a question about tarot in the modern day and in the future and in our current situation. Do you still do readings? And if so, what kind of questions do people ask now in a time of such great uncertainty?
I have not done any readings in several months, and so I answer that. I'm gonna get. I'm now that from being retired, and yeah, and now that you mention it, lots of people are stressed. Lots of people
Well,
need counsel,
you know,
and maybe this is one of the ways I could be of service.
I had big questions when I was in my 20s. What should I do with my life? Where should I live? It was really major stuff, and some others when I was 40. But now I have huge questions that I did not expect to be asking at my age. Should I leave the country? I mean, really huge questions. And I would be fascinated, in spite of my one hair raising experience, I would be fascinated to use tarot as one of my sources of guidance.
Tom?
I haven't read decks in years, but we could play around with it if you want. Yes, there are so many different ways to do it, and as with massage, I have a similar approach to massage in terms of what you have to tarot, in that I want to help people fix the problem they're having right now, as opposed to having a continuous revenue stream from them. If the same thing is happening to them over and over, I'm not helping them. There are a lot of different types of therapy out there that's true of. There are so many chiropractors who want you to keep coming back every week, and others who say, let's see if we can fix this. And if I can't fix it in 2 or 3 sessions, then I'm not the person for you.
Now, Tom, we have a comment. No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
We have a comment from Terry Buskey about having worked on many decks at Llewellyn in the 80s. What is Llewellyn?
It's a publisher,
Okay.
an occult publisher specifically, who did a bunch of really interesting books on various subjects. But they did a couple of books with Hannes Bach covers, including a really interesting psychic detective book called The Secrets of Dr. Taverner by Dion Fortune, and Esoteric Orders in Their Work by Fortune. But they were one of the major occult publishers, along with Weiser and a couple of others, in that period.
We also have someone who commented that they always thought the Hanged Man was Mussolini, but I gather the Hanged Man is different in every deck. And who is the Hanged Man in the New York Tarot?
Well,
the Hanged Man is Samuel R. Delany, the science fiction writer,
who has been on this show.
Good. And
Chip upside down.
In a playground.
Yes. Do you want me to do a deep dive into some tarot history and the imagery of the history?
Oh, absolutely.
Under Arcana are the Triumphi, the Trumps. They were high cards. They were high cards in a high class card game. Cards started out as a really low class game. I think when I was doing a deep dive, the first literary mention, the first written mention of cards was an invocation, a directive to monks in Germantown to make these demeaning games like pins, and cards. So this was, I think, the 13 night. This was the 13 nights. And if you think about cards and card games, cards are a kind of marriage of what came before. The things that came before were chess and dice. And you can think of card games as kind of a marriage of chess and dice. And what happened was the price of paper dropped in the 18th century. And cards and saint cards playing cards and saint cards became this product that became widely available. We do not have a lot of extant ancient playing cards from the 14th century because they were so cheap. They were like paperback books. They were made, they were, you threw the whole thing away. And we have of those. But it was definitely a lower class game. And like a lower class pastimes, when rich people get a hold of it, they tart it up. They make it classy. And so the Trionfi, the trump cards, what became the major arcana once it got sort of occultized, were these basically these high cards. They were trump cards in card games. And we have records of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart talking about what he lost and what he gained by playing at tarots the night before. So yeah, about playing this game. And there are parts of Europe where it's still played as a game. But
well, Tim Powers wrote a whole novel about tarot cards and soul stealing and fractal geometry and Las Vegas gambling called Last Call, which is one of my favorite books of his.
Anyway, the century. And one of the sad things about the Hanged Man has to do with the definition of murder. Murder only existed in the late 14th century if you had family to come and avenge you if you got killed somewhere. And the late 14th century, you had a tremendous amount of disruption because of the Black Death. Everything got like thrown into the air and fell down. And there was a lot of people who traveled, who became vagabonds. And if you wandered into the wrong town, because there were no green books back then, if you wandered into the wrong town and they got into a cell, you upside down to see if you lasted the night, they could do that. And that's where the image of the hanging man comes from. It's quite horrible.
Wow.
This goes back to strange fruit, of course, as well.
Yes. Yep.
So the hanged man is the original, the other, someone that is not,
Yes.
that everyone is afraid of.
No, it was somebody who can be exploited.
Well,
and harmed for the purposes of entertainment.
Degraded, yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing, particularly in the sense of divination. The question of how I'm dealing with the other in my life is often a major question for people that they don't realize is causing them problems.
Wow. Wow.
So that would be a useful card often to pay attention to.
Is the psychopomp one of the trump cards?
Yeah, that's
It
her
is
name
the Hierophant.
The Hierophant, the High Priest. That one.
And what I wanted to do is focus in on the psychological thing that the Hierophant does, which is basically be your usher into spiritual transformation. In the same way that taking communion is supposed to transform you. And the person in that card, Jim Garvey, yeah, he was one of the original Star Group 1 folks.
Could you repeat his name? Because the name broke up.
James Garvey.
Garvey. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Do you have
he was an amazing man.
Do you have a list of who all the individuals are and which cards they are?
Uh, I have a list. It's not in there. I listed everybody's names, but I can
You
tell
listed
you
all
who
the
they
names.
are.
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another
And
one of
I
the people.
and one of the things. Yeah, one of the things that I need to do is I need to make the book that goes with this. And one of the things that I've realized is that I'm very bad at sitting down and trying to write it out. However, I'm very good at talking about it. So I can talk about each card and give the information. And so one of the things that I hope to do is sit down and kind of, as we're doing now, get interviewed about each card and the people in each card and what it took to take the photograph, and also what the meanings when I cast that person at that particular card.
Well, I'm very glad that we can give you the start on doing that just by doing this now.
Do the book.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm glad we thought of doing this.
I am too.
So, yeah, the book would be fascinating, particularly since so many of these people have gotten well known in other ways, like Margot Adler, very well known as a commentator on things New Yorkish.
And
Yes.
isn't there someone in there who is now with the Bronx Opera, or is one of the developers of the Bronx Opera? I thought I saw that name in there.
The conductor, let me see.
Yes, his
one?
name
It's one of
begins
the
with an S.
Michael Spearman. Yes, Michael Spearman.
Mm-hmm.
Let me.
Yes. All sorts of interesting people in there.
Yes, we have someone in the chat who has linked to a New York Times article about the New York Tarot.
That's Bob.
What?
Actually.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So, I will have to look at that.
No, that is not Bob with the link. That is Baba Shaggy Baba.
Yes, but I believe that has been Bob
tarot
in the past on this.
It has not. That's a guy from New York who was in the punk scene in New York. It is not Bob.
Oh, okay.
The New York, and there's also something, the New York Review.
Mm-hmm.
And this is on the punk deck?
This is on your deck.
On your deck,
I believe.
Okay. Didn't know about it.
Yes.
Yes.
Baba says you can call me Dale.
Yes. Hey, it's not Bob. Bob is better looking. Yes.
He's better at looking. He's looking at what we're doing.
You know, I'm actually thinking that at some point we should do one of these and bring on some of our traditional audience to find out who they really are.
That was one of the wonderful things at RadCon. We actually got to meet some of the regular audience. Karen and I went there where Bob was being guest of honor and got to see a lot of these things. You were saying before we started the discussion that you'd been involved in helping run art shows at various small conventions, as well as being connected in art and things like that. I have long championed Bijo Trimble as having changed fandom twice, once through creating what we now know of as our science fiction art shows, and once through the whole Star Trek thing that everyone knows about. But the nature of how science fiction people treated art in the 60s is a time of major change. You know, people, and it's interesting to look at the different ways that art has been done in the field for a while. And you're part of the change.
I like to think I was. It was. I got to meet a lot of artists, at least, or at least correspond with them. One of them is Rick Bryce.
Okay. And
think
Freff.
science fiction art was not, it was this little ghetto. I mean, as science fiction was a ghetto. Prior to Star Wars, people forget science fiction was a ghetto. I was raised with science fiction. My dad, sidebar, my father was blinded in World War II and he liked science fiction before he was blinded. So I was raised hearing my mother read the current science fiction, what was coming out in the magazines, to my father. So I was hearing this stuff when I was 5, 6, 7 years old. And so I probably didn't have any choice about becoming a science fiction fan. I really just, I was immersed in it. And it affected my view of the world. Science fiction art was not as respected as fine art. There was this distinction between commercial art and science fiction. Science fiction art was considered commercial art, and different fine.
Yep.
What the producers were was not. Their skill, and
Yes.
they were profoundly skilled. In many ways, they were much more skilled. The people who were doing fine art at the same time.
Well, and even more, there were people who were doing what was fan art, which was even more looked down upon. But recently, Heritage Auctions sold the original drawing that Alva Rogers, who was a fan artist, did of Cthulhu sitting at the gates of R'lyeh for over $1 million.
Oh,
Wow.
And that's an anomaly. That's not something.
Did
The artist has been dead for decades, unfortunately. But the artist's family got the money.
Okay, good.
The original was just sitting on the wall at his house when we were clearing up the estate, actually.
Wow.
Yes. All right. We are coming up on the end of our time. And we could.
That means Bob should magically reappear.
Yes. It does also mean that we could keep going for another hour, but that's usually the case. And there's what I just had a flash of Bob.
You know, when the Bob flashes before your eyes, that's the inspiration that, as Giani says, you can't ignore to go write a story.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you know, we know that Bob is the master of slack.
Yeah. Now I have to tell you guys, this has been a very interesting thing. I had never in my life thought much about tarot other than some obscure bit of trivia that the death card means change, not death, or something like that. I don't know if that's accurate, but
Frequently.
yeah. But
all part of many meanings.
so everything I know about tarot is as it's presented in passing on some piece of fictional flat screen. So thank you for the wonderful vision. And just for the fun of it, I popped onto Amazon.com to see what tarot decks, you know, what's holy cow. You know, after the first 20 pages of things, I realized that, you know, somebody must be making money. Now, here's a real question for you, and it's not meant to be totally sarcastic. Has anybody ever made a Christian tarot deck that uses the icons of Christianity in a tarot format?
I'd be really surprised if there wasn't.
Do what?
I'd be surprised if there wasn't.
I would be too, but if there isn't, that would be a fun one to risk your soul making. I saw the
Well,
comment
you have
about
to
the
remember.
we don't have souls. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I think it froze.
We've lost her.
There we go. Bob, I can tell you there is a biblical tarot deck. It's not a Christian one per se, but it's a Judeo-Christian biblical tarot deck.
Oh, you really want to pop into the phrase Judeo-Christian on me?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Old Testament. There's an Old Testament tarot.
You know when that term was first used? 1821, for just in case if you're interested. Because I was researching it a little bit because of all of the claims that our founding fathers were promoting a Judeo-Christian value system in the country. And we had to honor that. And it's like, yeah, nah. And so all but two of them were dead by then. So that's a neither here nor there, but trivia you can take to your grave. So anyway, I'm sorry I interrupted a very good point, Karen. What was it again? Oh, there is a Old Testament version of the tarot deck. I just would like to see. I know there's got to be modern Trump administration ones. You know.
Well, there was the card decks with all the people who they wanted to kill.
Well, yeah,
What?
they used that, but those were playing cards.
Yes. Well, the difference between playing cards and tarot cards is one of those things that's kind of fuzzy. The Afghan War card decks, Karen.
The art on tarot decks, as exhibited by the ones you've held up, is much better. That is a remarkable concept that you have there, Giani. I did not understand anything about tarot, and now I have to understand a little bit that the deck itself seems to be more of a player than just the interchangeable symbology of the cards. You've done something almost all of Tom's guests do. They made me think.
Which thank you.
And that's great because anytime your world can be expanded by stretching your neurons is definitely a wonderful thing. And so that said, next week on B Cube Sunday morning is Third Sunday with Cliff's winning. And as usual, since it's not the day before the show, Cliff, yes, I'm talking to you, Cliff, I have no idea who his guests are or what we're going to be talking about. But I will, as always, have a standby. So, Cliff, tell me who your guests are. Because he brings on some very interesting guests. Cliff, being a poet, is plugged in well to the poetry markets. And if I had a suggestion for him, it would be that this book that's coming out, An American Storm, has got more poets in it than we've ever done. We have 21 individual poems, is it, Karen?
Yes.
And
yes,
gather up a few of them because I just read one and I can't remember who wrote it. The email I sent you. You remember who it was? I forwarded the email to you. Oh
no, but it was raving about your capabilities as an editor.
Well, actually, Karen did most of the edits on the poem, so I just said thank you very much, and it's an honor to serve. having Karen on your team makes it easy to say things like that a lot. But what he did was when I got done reading it and parsing the words and everything, is like, yeah, okay. And then I started mentally reading it aloud. And it was an oh my God shift in perspective. So, um, Cliff, if you have trouble finding a guest, call me and I'll send you this guy's name because I would just watch the show to listen to him read this poem. When a poem just has an incredible rhythm to it, and you just want to listen to it being read, and that's what this guy did. Now it's very sad that I can't remember his name
I
right off.
should be able to find it, but we will come up with it next week. Bob, we should consider just doing a show of poetry because I think that there's something about our culture that we don't think a lot about poetry as being relevant in the mainstream, but it's become huge ever since Biden had that amazing poet read at his inauguration. Yeah, I think it's time to get some of our poets online and just do a day of poetry.
Oh, we've had our poets online a fair amount, but we've not done a show of poetry, Cliff, beyond just a couple. But I could just imagine we have the ability to line up uh, a fair number of people that we could. The PhD, the doctor fellow.
Yes.
Brian Lippincott.
Yes, he's a wonderful poet.
Yeah, he didn't suck at all.
And I heard Yanka read at Norwestcon, and she does lovely poetry as well. And we've published Yanka Hobbs.
I know, still waiting to hear back from our edits tour. But she would be another great one to have on as reading her poetry. But you're getting into the views behind the scenes. So Cliff, if you're listening, Cliff, and I know you are, get hot and bring us some poets.
Okay.
And thank you, Tom. Karen.
Thank you, Johnny.
Oh, I wasn't saving something special for her.
May I do a plug? Special plug.
Yes.
Okay. You sent to John Siri at P.O. Box.
Tell you what, do me a favor, Johnny.
Yes.
In private chat is a little button down in your lower left.
Yes.
Type that order information that they need in there, and I will pop it over on.
Okay, it's not letting me type in the button after, and it won't let me type in there. So let me say it out loud.
And Karen, she's quick.
407. Box 407, Little Creek, Delaware. It's 2 words, Little Creek. 1961.
I could not hear the
PO
box number.
So repeat the box number. We got 4.
407.
407. And we'll put it up on the side, and it's $65, right?
Correct, and that covers postage as well.
That includes postage. Yes.
I have got box 407, Little Creek, Delaware. Okay.
Right.
And the zip code again is
199 199
19961. And I will put this in the chat.
Yes.
So I'm slightly better
Yes.
to be.
We generally ask for folks to do their plug at the end, and I'm glad that we got around to doing that. So I'm glad you asked for yourself.
Well, now let's see. As soon as it's there, I'll display it.
It's in the chat.
It's in the chat. Yes, we can do
It's in
that.
the chat, and there it is. Because I can tell you, Giani, I did enjoy, and you've got your creds here, both as a photographer and as just a creative genius, and truly a benefit to the art community. Even in New York, you seem to stand out. So that is a pleasure, a real pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much.
And now I'm disappointed I don't see Cliff here.
Oh, well.
Well, I know, but you see, I love talking to him when I think he's here. But when he's not here, it's mean.
Send him an email, Bob.
Tell him to go and watch the whole show.
I like him, but I don't like him enough to let him have access to this. This was awesome, guys. It was just wonderful, and the photography alone is amazing. And a bike messenger before electric bikes.
It was fun.
How many times did you hit a car door?
See, I got doored badly.
You know, I've been riding bikes for 60 years, and but almost always all rural. And I tell you, you gotta love it. To be on a bicycle is heaven. If it just is. Well, that said, guys, stand by for we're going away. But so try and be good with your rest of your Sunday morning. And remember, we're about halfway through on the edits of our American Storm. Which, by the way, if you've ever seen publishers wrestle with a title, that one was a truly an epic effort to come up with. Why are you growling, Karen?
I was growling it at is there a card called the Cliffhanger?
Yes.
It's what?
Someone made a comment, is there a card called the Cliffhanger?
Well, you know, now you've inspired me. Now I'm going to ask the stupidest question that I probably ever ask on the air. Oh, just a second. Let me fix that part. You guys have fun. No, I'll ask it. Okay, Karen, put your brain to work and imagine if we made a tarot deck based on alternative truths.
Well, I have an idea for an artist, but I won't say anything on the air.
There you go. Take care.